We're reminded what it feels like to be in solar minimum with a solar storm fizzle and a spotless sun. Those stories and more in the Shortie this week. Space weather this week really puts the brakes on. We were supposed to get a solar storm from a finger-like coronal hole that last time we saw it last month, it actually brought us up to storm conditions. But this month, I guess it just couldn't survive its second time around, and we kind of grazed the edge of the fast wind, and thus we only bumped up to unsettled conditions. Meanwhile, we've already settled back down. We're back into quiet conditions, and that's not looking too good for Aurora photographers. If you weren't in the right place at the right time, well, you just didn't get any shots at all. Meanwhile, we have a couple bright regions that have now rotated to the sun's backside, and what we're left with is, well, nothing. We're kind of sitting here with a spotless sun and really no activity, but we do have some bright regions on the sun's backside, which will give amateur radio operators and emergency responders a bit of a boost, but you're going to have to wait possibly as long as 2 weeks. Switching to your solar storm conditions and aurora possibilities over the coming week, well, we're in quiet conditions right now and things aren't going to change all that much. We do have a small pocket of fast wind that might be hitting us here in the next day, but it's not going to last very long. At high latitudes, NOAA is expecting unsettled conditions with about a 30% chance of a minor storm. At mid-latitudes, we're also expecting unsettled conditions, but with only about a 25% chance of active conditions, if at all. And this is not going to last very long, and as we continue to move in through the weekend, it's probably going to go back to being very quiet. So aurora photographers, if you're at high latitudes, you might get a chance for some sporadic aurora, but if you're at mid-latitudes, well, most likely you're going to have to sit this one out. Switching to your solar flare and particle radiation storm outlook over the coming week, everything is still in the green when it comes to solar flares. We have a spotless sun right now, so that means no risk for radio blackouts, and that should make you GPS users quite happy with reception on Earth's day side. But of course, a spotless sun also means the solar flux continues to be low. We're sitting in the 70s right now, but we're going to probably drop down into the 60s by about midweek. So this means amateur radio and shortwave radio operators, you guys are dealing with marginal to poor radio propagation right now. And unfortunately, this is going to continue easily over the next 10 days, possibly the next 2 weeks or even longer. So that's what it is like to be at solar minimum. We just kind of got to deal with it. Now, also because we're at solar minimum, we are getting a higher penetration of cosmic rays than we normally would. So all of you frequent flyers, and this includes the air crew who fly over 800 hours annually and fly at high latitudes and high altitudes, you are now getting the marginal dose for radiation. So please take this into consideration in your flight plans, and this does include you prenatal passengers as well. So the space weather this week has definitely quieted down. We are being reminded of what it feels like to be in solar minimum. Now, we do have a small pocket of fast wind that will be rotating into the Earth strike zone here in the next day or so, but it's going to be short-lived. It could be long enough to give aurora photographers at high latitudes a little bit of a show, but you mid-latitude photographers are likely going to have to sit this one out. Now, on top of that, we have the bright regions that were on the Earth-facing disk this past week. They have now rotated to the sun's backside, and we are sitting with a spotless sun. This means radio propagation for you amateur radio and shortwave responders, especially those responding to all of the hurricanes. Remember, it's still hurricane season. Unfortunately, we're going to have some poor radio propagation on the sun's or the Earth's day side, and that's going to continue easily for the next week, maybe even longer before we get a reprieve. Now, the only positive note really is GPS users. You guys should be looking pretty good. Your reception should be nice and clean on Earth's day side and not too shabby on Earth's night side either, because there's not a lot of interference from aurora. You might have a little trouble down at low latitudes, but overall, things should look pretty good. I'm Tamitha Scove. Thank you for watching.